Hi, everyone. So, welcome to my live workshop today. It's called Leveraging Your Business with the Right Team. And it's a thing that I'm very excited to be sharing with you all because you may have seen my sort of promotional stuff for this. I speak to women all the time who are like, oh, I can't do it all by myself. I'm tired of feeling like I'm drowning. I'm tired of feeling like there's a ceiling on what I'm trying to achieve. But at the same time, they are really like noticing that they don't have that time available to be able to do all of the things that they want to. And there's a lot more going on behind that, as we will see today. So I'm going to be dealing with three protests that I hear routinely from women. The first one is, I don't want a team. We're going to talk about that. The second is, I can't afford a team. And the third one is, I don't know how to find a team. So if you're watching this live, do say hi, do let us know where you're watching from. That would be really awesome to see as we go through. And at the end, if there's any questions, then we can deal with those then. I love Q&A. So if you're watching along as we do this, or if you're watching the replay, then do feel free to join in the comments. If you're watching the replay, then write #replay so that we know that you're there. So first of all, then, I don't want a team. Now, this is a really interesting thing because I think it's completely understandable. I think people have often had a bad experience, either with hiring the wrong person, or maybe they've had a bad sort of management experience while they were still in corporate. And it's amazing the number of women that I speak to where actually they have been given feedback at some point that they're not very good at managing or they haven't handled something well. And that becomes something they bring with them into their consulting business. And they just feel like, I am not good at this. I should not be the person to do this. And people quite often say to me, I don't really want to have to manage a team. And the really important thing to note about this, first of all, is that I think quite often when women are saying this, it's all about the fact that they don't want to manage a team in the way that they did before, or in they have a picture in their head and they're like, I do not want that. And I think it's a really important thing that as women consultants, we are able to say, do you know what? This is my business, so we're going to do it my way. And a really important part of that is just being like, do you know what? You don't have to make it like something you've done before. You can make it like something completely new that you've never done before. And I always want to encourage women to start thinking really big with these ideas and just being like, do you know what? Maybe you don't want to repeat that rubbish experience. So let's make something that's completely different. Let's make something that meets your criteria. So if you don't want to be managing the people, if you want to be sort of doing your CEO stuff and not getting bogged down in the logistics and the planning and the utilization, all that kind of stuff, hire someone who's going to do that for you. Isn't it simple? Did you even have that in your head when I started saying that? So that's a really important thing. And I think another thing is that when you have got really excited and sort of hired someone and then they haven't been the right fit for the role, that can leave you feeling really overwhelmed and really just like, why did that happen? And lots of us have made wrong hires in one way or another. Like my current team in my business, they are not the first people that I ever hired. And I think it's really important that we give ourselves grace. And that we're able to say, do you know what? You don't have to get it right in every situation, but that doesn't, just because it went wrong, in that one past situation or even in several situations, it doesn't mean to say that that is how it's going to go again. So that's a really important thing. You don't have to feel like it needs to be something that someone else has set up the structure and you have to follow that. You don't need to manage people if you don't want to. And also you don't need to feel like, oh gosh, I got it wrong once, therefore I never want to do it again. That's not a great way to manage your business, because we know this, don't we, as entrepreneurs? We're in the business of getting it wrong sometimes, and that's all part of the growth. That's all part of the fun. So those are the really important things that I want to say to you. If you're listening to this and you're just like, I don't want a team, I don't want to do that, because the thing we miss out on when we don't have a team is that ability to be able to leverage our time and to also step back from delivery. I speak to women all the time who are like, I'm stuck in delivery and I don't want to be. And the reality is, as well, I think we can feel through school, through university, through our corporate careers, the way that we often categorize the things that we're good at is here's all the skills it's possible to have. I'm good at these things, so I need to work really hard at getting good at these things. And one thing that I'm going to be talking about today is that I love to use wealth dynamics in my business, which is a framework. It's a profiling framework for entrepreneurs made up of 8 different profiles. And the thing that has really drawn me to wealth dynamics, as well as the fact that it was kind of teaching the stuff that I've been teaching for years, and it's all pulled together really nicely into one neat framework. Is that instead of being like in a corporate workplace where you just feel like, oh, I'm supposed to get really good at the stuff. So, oh, I don't really like the account side. Now I've got to go on a training course and get really good at that. Wealth Dynamics actually says, do you know what? You're not good at that stuff. Focus on the stuff where you're really, really strong. So can you see that, like, when you are solo in your business, there's that pressure on you to be 360, like able to do everything, able to cover everything, doing all the detail work, doing all the admin, doing all the front of house stuff, doing all the delivery, doing all the sales. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. So a really exciting thing about Wealth Dynamics is that it helps you to work out, like, where are your strengths? Which is the profile that actually best fits what you naturally like to do? And it's not based around kind of who you are on your best day or when you're in your best energy. It's based around who you are on your worst day. You know, those days when you just roll out of bed and you're like, oh, I don't want to do anything today. Like, can you imagine what your business would feel like if instead of you having to be like this super capable, amazing at everything person, you actually built your whole business model around your worst self? Doesn't that sound shocking? Like, because I think often we feel a lot of pressure to make up for the fact that we're not good at everything. Whereas with Wealth Dynamics, the thing that has got me really excited about it, but there's lots of things to be honest, and it's something that I use in my business and I now use with most of my clients as well, because like it means that you can show up as yourself. You can be your authentic self and you can say, I'm great at these things. I don't really like doing those things and I'm not going to do them anymore, which is a really powerful and exciting place to get to. So if you're listening to this and you're kind of in that category of like, I've had a bad experience, or like, I don't want to manage a team, I'd rather do it all myself, I just want to take a moment and be like, are you sure? Because actually what it looks like to have a team might not be the thing that you're associating with it at the moment. So our second thing is, I can't afford a team. And that's a really important place to get to. And I want to say a few things about that. So first of all, it's funny actually, I saw something online recently where someone was saying it's not really a team if like you have freelancers on your team. Like it has to be FTE, otherwise it doesn't really count. And I was like, who decided that? Like that doesn't mean anything. And I think that's a really important thing. It's a massive, massive commitment to take on like a full-time equivalent member of staff, a permanent hire onto your payroll. And I'm not saying don't do that. I think you come to a point where that's the good and ethical and right thing to do. But it's really important that actually we don't feel like that's the only definition of a team. Like I have had people on board in my business for quite a few years now, and actually all of them are still on like a freelance basis with me. They all have other people that they work with as well. And I'm able to get like the absolute like best in terms of what I need in my team, the hours that I need. They are always available. I don't know how they do it. They make me feel like I'm their only client. But yes, like it's a real win for them because they don't have to just come on my payroll and only work with me. They're able to still like keep a lot of different projects going at the same time. And for like certain profiles around the Wealth Dynamics Square, that is like a really awesome way to leverage their abilities to do lots of things and cope with different priorities. So if you're coming to this feeling like, oh, you know, I don't know if I'm ready to make that commitment to bring someone onto my payroll, I actually think that you shouldn't start out with someone on your payroll. And if you're watching from the UK, there's a thing called IR35, which is actually a really important piece of legislation. It's something you need to be aware of. And basically what it means in the UK is that you can't treat someone as if they are a consultant for you when actually they are effectively a staff member. And there's different ways that applies. So make sure that you get the right advice on that. So I'm not for a second saying you should go against that. I think that's a really important thing to be aware of. But I don't think that you need to have like 40 hours a week from your staff at first at all. I think you can start very small with this and like try someone. I often say this to clients, you know, try them out with one thing, see how it goes, work up from there, because it's a really safe way to test out actually, is this person a good fit? Are they having a positive impact on the business? Like, is the money that I'm paying them bringing a return in terms of how the business is doing and how I am feeling? That's a really important thing. So, and it comes down to affordability as well, doesn't it? Because actually, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, like that's such a big outlay, then it means that you can test with something small where the numbers are still relatively affordable. And before you make that commitment and give them more to do, it then means that actually you can test that and you can work out whether that's going to be the right thing. So the other thing I want to say with that is like, absolutely make it proportional to your budget. And you have to sometimes look for the person who's got the right skill set at the right price point. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is making sure that you pay people sort of correctly for the amount of expertise that they have and the amount of work and the depth of work that they're doing for you. So I know that there are people who are like, oh, use these really cheap freelancing websites. I typically don't advise people to go and do that because yes, it's cheap, but it's not always the best thing and it's not always the most ethical thing. It doesn't always support the person who's delivering that work in the way that they deserve to be supported. But there are so many ways. And again, it's this thing of like, it doesn't have to look like one thing. You can make it something which meets your needs, which fits the categories that you have. There are so many people out there who are looking for very flexible working, remote working. Doesn't have to be in a different country to you. It can be in the same country as you, whatever you're kind of looking to do in that whole criteria. But the important thing is make it proportional to the budget that you have. So you don't want to be spending out like 90% of what you're making, obviously, on the people that you're hiring. I typically advise that businesses should be between sort of 50 and 60% profitable. So like you want to make sure that your costs are no more than 40 or 50%. And like your team costs come into that operations budget. So make sure that like it's proportional in that way. Find a solution that fits the amount of money. But you definitely don't need to feel like, oh my gosh, I just can't afford to do it. And the other thing with that is that I think sometimes we don't know who we should be hiring. Like we don't know if we need someone high level or someone quite uncommitted who can just do a small bit of stuff. And I know I see a lot of women start off with kind of like a VA, and it's not very sort of clear what the VA will be doing. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think it's sometimes I see a real lack of clarity around that. And you're making a hire, but you don't really know what you're wanting people to do. And that actually leads us really nicely onto the third protest that I wanted to address, which is I don't know how to find a team. Because I think a really important part of that is actually we don't know how to find a team because we don't know what we're looking for and we don't know like what tasks we're going to be asking people to do, but we don't know kind of like how do you find a person who's good at this? And again, it's where I like to use wealth dynamics, because not only can you work out like the profile that you are, we then use that information to work out which profiles you should be hiring into your team, the profiles that most complement the things that you are good at and strong at. And that's a really important and exciting thing, because what I tend to see is that when there is no sort of awareness of like your profile and the profile of people you're hiring, we tend to hire the people who are most like us. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because those are the people who we like the most. We often have like a huge amount of rapport with them because they're so fun and they like all the stuff that we like. But in terms of like getting the right support in your business, getting support that complements the things that you're not so good at, it actually doesn't support you to then be in a situation where everyone in the business is really big on ideas and really like excited, and no one has their feet on the ground. No one can like map time. No one has any consciousness of how much these things are costing. So you can end up like having a lot of fun with people who feel really great to be spending time with. But in terms of what your business needs, it's not the thing that you necessarily think it is. So that can be a really important part of the process. And the reason that I like to use wealth dynamics to do this is that not only does it tell you the profile that you should be looking for, you can then, and this is exciting, okay, so prepare yourself, you can use the wealth dynamics profile information to write a job description of who you're looking for. So that becomes something that then, you've gone from being like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I need, I don't know like what I should be doing, to being like, right, I am this kind of person, I need this kind of person, and this is how I put together a job role description that is going to appeal to them. Because you can describe it in terms of like what they like to do, what they're ideally looking for, all these kinds of things, that it means that it jumps out to the right people. And I've been extremely lucky in my business. I've got very strong team members who are very complementary to me, and it's hugely like transformational in a business when you have people who have that different energy and people who can actually like complement what you do. So I'm a creator profile in wealth dynamics, and on my team I have an accumulator and I have a mechanic, and it works really well because accumulators are really good at like the timing, the logistics, the detail, that kind of thing, and mechanics Amber is hiding on the call, but she is here. But she's my mechanic, and she's awesome because she's good at details and she's good at finishing stuff, whereas I'm good at starting stuff. So when I was doing stuff on my own, I used to start all these kinds of things, and then they'd all grind to a halt because I just never finished stuff. And I'm like that around the house as well. My husband always says he can tell exactly what I've been doing in a day because he just looks around the house and he can see all these things that I've started and then be like, oh yeah, I think I'll go and do something else now. But the really exciting thing, and I'm seeing this from my clients as well, that they go from like being completely overwhelmed and feeling just like, I don't know how to do this, to really feeling like, oh my gosh, this is something that like is actually happening. And like, I literally got a message this week from a client who's like, I just want you to know that like I feel so supported by my team this week. And it's so powerful because it's hard to do what we do. It's hard to be like the heart and soul of the business and have all these ideas all the time and be struggling to implement them when you don't have that support. And it makes such a huge difference when actually your team works as a team. Like people can be at their absolute best doing the stuff that they love the most, and it all pushes forward like the momentum that you need in the business and achieving the goals that you've set. It really is a super exciting thing. So there's a few things that I wanted to mention. First of all, this book, Who Not How, is a really good place to start. If you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should, I don't know if I should be building a team in my business. This is such a great book. I read it on a plane journey, actually. It was only a short haul journey, and I read the entire thing on the flight. So like, it's a really kind of encouraging way of like making the case for like why you're stronger when you involve other people, other experts. And so I think that's a really good thing to do. But the other thing I would really like to tell you about is like the wealth dynamics services that I offer. So first of all, you can find out what profile you are. So that costs $99 and you get like a test token with that. And then you get a detailed report through the wealth dynamics side that tells you what profile you are and what that means. But if you'd like to take it a step further, you can also book in with me for a wealth dynamics debrief where it's a bigger package and we spend 90 minutes together talking about what that means. And then we have like a follow-up session afterwards. But the other thing that I do, if you already have a team in place, or even if it's a small team and you're thinking about expanding it, what I can come in and do is actually do a debrief for your team. So work out what profile everyone is, get them all to do the test using different tokens. And then we kind of analyze who you've got around the square. So what does that mean? Do you have people in the right roles? Are there gaps in the wealth dynamics square where currently the business has no kind of real resource in that area? It makes a really big difference to kind of understand how each person's role is interconnected and being sure that everyone on the team has got the right things in place and the right people in place to make sure that like you're all balancing each other out really, really nicely. So if you would like to know more about that, Amber, are you able to drop in the comments? You may have done already. I can't always see everything that comes up in real time. But yeah, if you would like to do a wealth dynamics test, you can look at the test token for that. Or if you're interested in having a debrief with me or getting me in to work with your team, that is also something I would love to help you with. So I don't know if we have any questions. Now is an excellent time to ask them if you would like to. I'm just flicking between my screens slightly. I can't see any at the moment, but this replay will be up on LinkedIn. So like if you have any questions after the event, feel free to drop them in and then we can take it from there. I love Q&A. I love answering people's questions. The other thing to do is if you're watching this, do connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already, and do send me a message and let me know how you have found this content and like if you do have any other issues that you'd like me to cover in future broadcasts that we do. But yeah, like it's been great to be here today. I've really enjoyed kind of putting this all together. And there is so much that we can do in this area to build a really strong team in your business. I often say to people that like, if you're in the low six figures of your business, you don't just get to seven figures like by accident. That's not something that I see people doing particularly. Like we often need to move some things around and really work on that business model and get the right team in place so that you can have the momentum and the help and the support that you need. So if that's you, if you're watching this and you would love my help to help you get from 6 to 7 figures in your consulting business, I would love to hear from you. So drop me a message on LinkedIn or visit my website, which is jessicafernley.com. Awesome. Well, thank you for watching. It's been great to be here today and I'll see you all soon.